Is the format of representation in soap operas any good? Some people have some real and in theory valid complaints about it, but I for one think a lot of the criticisms are unfair. And actually, on a lot of fronts, soap operas have some incredible representation. Hello and welcome to Lights Campbell Action, where we are once again talking about soap operas. This is part three in the kind of informal series I've been making, and really I'm gonna keep making these videos until you tell me to stop or I run out of shit to say. So buckle in. So the first area of representation I want to talk about is that of mental illness. Now, according to Radio Times, 1 in 4 of us have realised we are experiencing a mental health problem ourselves after watching or listening to a mental health storyline on air. So that's quite a good percentage, 25% of people. Um, and they have a really good article on it actually, writing about how soaps let you follow a character's storyline so intimately because you're seeing every detail of your life and you're seeing how it affects the community around them. Um, and because, as I discussed in my previous video, there's no definite endpoint. Soaps can go on for however long they need to go on for. So there's no, we need to have this arc finished by this point or it's all away. They can keep it going. They don't have to rush a deadline. But that article did also have some pretty major criticisms I didn't personally agree with. Don't know what my hair is doing today, I'm sorry. Um, they made the point of there's some like they're sick of characters with mental illness kind of building up to the inevitable crisis and want to see more characters with mental health issues whose diagnosis is incidental. And I don't think that's quite giving the genre credit. So yes, there are a lot of plot lines that just build up to that crisis moment. But there are also characters whose mental health issues are incidental. It just has a dramatic point, and then they move on and they have more, like less mental health focused storylines. But they're still mentally ill, it's just not the main point. So take, for example, David in Casualty. David has a bipolar diagnosis. He has a lot of very dramatic plot lines about that diagnosis. But what I think is really important about him is the representation after that dramatic mental health storyline. Let's face it, they can't really do a soap without big dramatic crisis storylines. They're not going to make any money, they're not going to get the viewers. By nature of the genre, they have to have the big dramatic scenes. But after that, things move on and he's still presented as a regular guy trying his best. Radio Times complains that many of us manage our mental health and lead fulfilling lives. When will we see ourselves on the telly? But I did see myself in David, mainly in his coping mechanisms. So there's this whole little subplot, like quite far on from the crisis moment, where you're seeing David with his coping mechanisms. He goes on runs with white noise playing in his headphones. He's got a little notebook to track his panic attacks. And there's a really important scene where he has to stop and explain this to his wife. I'm like, yeah, this is what helps me. I know it might seem weird, but like, I need to do this for the sake of my mental health. And I've never felt more seen. Like, yes, if if crisis can be frustrating to watch, if you want your own experience represented. But the crisis is crucial to get the character arc, to have them be a normal functioning member of society. The crisis is crucial in a lot of points. I know a lot of people who are married who have never had an affair. It's not going to 100% represent your real life, but it's close enough. It's a good, when you like give it a chance, it's good representation. Another representation That I think so. And I'm going to mention Casualty so much in this video. It's a medical soap opera I grew up watching. It's iconic. What it gets right is its disability representation. So there's this one character, Dylan, who's very strongly implied to be autistic, right? He's overly literal. He comes across as abrupt and weird. My mum first described him as the one with no bedside manner, which is very accurate. He struggles with connecting with patients. But when he's pushed to get tested for autism by a kind of dick of a boss, he decides that the result isn't anyone else's fucking business, and that is awesome. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely want some late diagnosed representation. I am holding out hope for Emmerdale doing a late diagnosed autistic Liam storyline because Jesus Christ, I see myself in that man. I know that's not the plot. I know we're doing the cancer storyline. I know it, but I'm not thinking about it. But this idea that people don't owe you shit, let alone their official medical diagnosis, if they don't want to tell you, it's awesome. It's great. On a different note, you had Jade, who was this nurse who had hearing aids, and she made little attempt to hide it. There's a scene I remember, well, an episode I remember, where a deaf patient is brought in, and it's Jade who has to communicate with him because she's the only one there that speaks sign language enough. There was a whole plot line over COVID of Jade struggling because she couldn't lip read because everyone was wearing masks. There's this very cute scene where her paramedic friend Leon is helping her out and signs to her. I'm like, that was cute. That was cute. They use her disability to enhance her character, to build on the drama a bit. Whereas with Dylan, it's just part of who he is. It's none of your business if he's got a diagnosis or not. So overall, soaps do seem to have less disability representation than video over types. This is a very short paragraph in my script because I really struggled to think of solid examples that weren't Casualty. But Casualty does a great job. And I'm sure there's been some great storylines along that line with Corey and EastEnders. It's just a matter of I did not watch them, so I cannot talk about them. Last but absolutely not least is the soap's masterpiece, their LGBT representation, which I think I did touch on last video. So there's this absolutely class storyline on Emmerdale when Matty came back into his show. So he had disappeared, worked out he was trans, and started to transition without telling anyone in his family. And so he comes back to the village to steal his birth certificate so he can get it changed, which is so iconic. He gets caught. There's this whole plotline about his mum, Moira, coming to terms with the whole transgender thing, which makes for some cracking television. And it made a real discernible difference to people's lives. I know a lot of people who are able to explain being transgender to their parents so much better because of Moira and Matty's plotline. Matty could do it really well with. There was a plotline recently where he was put in a men's prison and trying to hide the fact he was trans. And I was so concerned for him the whole time. My blood pressure has never been so high watching film. The LGBT representation of soaps is one of the best parts of it because they pull it off so well. So Radio Times made that argument for the mental illness paragraph. There was only representation in allowed crisis moments and never in the norm, which I still don't agree with. But that cannot be said about Emmerdale's LGBT representation. A few weeks ago, there was 3 separate plotlines around LGBT characters having an affair. Right, Charity and Nessa were shagging behind Mac's back. Vinny was kissing Cammy behind Gabby's back. Robert and Aaron were shagging behind John's back. Of those plotlines, only one of them actually relates to being LGBT. You could change Robert to a woman or Nessa to a man, it would not impact the plotline at all. The only one you couldn't change was Vinny because his storyline was coming to terms with potentially being gay. It's not just British soap operas that do this. I vividly remember Aaron and David's wedding on the Australian soap opera Neighbours. Through soaps, LGBT people are humanised, they're brought into the fold, and they're allowed to be seen existing as normal people. Yes, you do often have a big crisis moment, a big coming to terms with everything, or a homophobic family plotline to start it all. But all of their LGBT characters are allowed to just live and to be their authentic selves. And I think that's beautiful. So despite some people, Radio Times, complaining, I think soap operas have a really good track record for representation. And I accept that yes, you do kind of need to start with a big crisis moment. But eventually, when the dust settles and things move on, you have some incredible characters and some incredible representation. So, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Sorry if my voice sounds absolutely dreadful. I've been awake for all of like 10 minutes. I'm like, I just need to film this video because I need to publish it tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.